Okay, I've got a 2012 Mazda 3S with a 2.5 liter engine in it, and I haven't looked at the car yet. All I know is that it was leaking coolant out. I don't know the extent of the damage to it. It still does crank up and run, but it was it stated it was shutting off after it would the coolant would leak out. So basically I'm just looking at it. Don't know where it's leaking from or anything. I'm going to get some water in here and just start checking it out and see what's going on with it. I don't know if the engine's good or bad or anything at this point, but I know it will crank up. Now when I say bad, I don't know if it's going to be overheating or have some type of a problem with a head gasket or anything like that. So let's go ahead and just get started on it. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and just put some water in here, and we'll see if it starts pouring out or maybe get a couple of pictures of water in it and see what's going on. Okay, so I got the tank full at this point. Let's see where it goes. Okay, the water's not running down, but the next thing I'm going to check is the oil, see if there's any frothiness or anything on this oil cap. And it seems to be good, so that's a good sign. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and crank it up here, and I'm going to take a look and see if I see any water pouring out from anywhere. Okay, you can see it cranked up on the first crank there, so we'll get down here and take a look. Okay, so I've got it cranked up. So far I'm not seeing any sort of water leaking out here other than what little bit I spilt. So it is running. It doesn't sound bad, but we may need to get it up to temperature and see what we got then. But so far, as I'm looking underneath. I don't, other than, like I said, what little bit I spilled, at the moment I'm not seeing any sort of drips. Okay, we do got water pouring out here, so now we got to figure out where this is coming from. So we're going to go ahead and kill it. So you can see it is coming out. I mean, it's really, it took it a minute to start coming out. I guess the thermostat finally opened up. Apparently this one doesn't have a temperature gauge, but it has a blue temperature light that goes out once it gets up to temperature, and it's supposed to shut itself off once, you know, if it gets overheated. But I can tell that it's coming from this side over here, so we've got a hose or something going on. It's really pouring out. So first order of business is going to be getting this shroud, this plastic shroud out from under here so we can actually see what's going on. So we're going to get a 10mm and we'll start taking all these screws here loose. Okay, so actually did not figure anything out at this point. This hose had been taken, the clamp was off of it, so it's just leaking. It just knocked the hose right off and it started pouring out there. So I'm going to get that hose secured. I hadn't even noticed that. I'm going to get that secured and then we'll crank it back up and try it again here. Okay, just to show you, this not real easy to get to without taking the air box out of here, but it's got a couple rubber grommets. Got one 10mm screw. This little duct piece runs over to here. You just pop it off of there, and then you unloosen the band, goes around this, you pop that whole air box, and plus the connector for the MAF there. So that's all there is to that, and then I can get down here and actually get to this this hose. I don't know why it was taken loose. Said everything's just kind of a mystery. Don't know what somebody else has done or anything else, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this as well for a moment. I'll get my bigger pliers and go ahead and snug that up, and we'll put some more water back in it and crank it up and see what else we got going on here. Alright, we'll go ahead and slip this back down. And if you got to get it turned the right way or it won't fit here, and it's not cooperating with me. Alright, so we got it popped down there good enough. The main thing we want to get our MAF and stuff hooked back up because it won't run. We don't really have to tighten it. Okay, I wanted to point something else out real quick. Now this spring clamp, a lot of times when you disturb these, and this feels kind of loose with a hose, it will start leaking. And if that's the case, you'll want to just back that way back off out of the way and get yourself some of these stainless steel ones are really good. You can get yourself a kit from Harbor Freight, a whole kit like this, but put one of those screw clamps on there and give that a tighten, and you won't have to worry about that anymore. Now a lot of times if the hose is like that, you know, you may want to replace it before too long, you know, because they can fail as well. Now it looks like I've got another clamp at the back. I didn't even see that until right now. You can see that clamp right there has been taken off as well, so I'm going to have to get back there and figure out how I'm going to put that back on. Not really sure what was going on. I guess someone else was looking at it and taking things loose. I don't know. So I'm just going through here trying to reconnect things at the moment. Okay, so I got this one back here, and what I did, let me push that over out of the way. You can see I put a screw clamp on that one. That one back there is way too difficult to get back there with the pliers and try to put on with all this battery and computer and everything in the way. So definitely do yourself a favor and put you a screw clamp on that one. And probably better to put one on this one right here as well. But anyways, I think I've checked everything. Those look like the only ones that were loose that I could tell. So I'm going to refill the water over here. I'm going to go ahead and get it cranked up and just start checking again for leaks. Okay, so basically I got water back in it, snugged up those hoses. At this point I don't really see any leaks or drips other than what was dripping before, so I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm going to go ahead and just take it for a test drive. Is about all I can do, because I mean everything's working on it. Air conditioner, the engine's running good. Don't really see any leaks, so I'm just going to have to drive it and see if I can get any leaks to show up. But so far I'm not really finding a problem here. Okay, so I drove this down the road and I brought it back, and the water level is still up to where I had it. I didn't see any drips. I don't see any water leaking from anywhere, so I don't know. They stated that it had a leak, but I don't know if it was, maybe some work was being done on it and somebody forgot to tighten a hose. I don't know. If you've got a theory, leave it in the comments, but I don't know. One thing I did discover though is that it's got a horrible wheel bearing noise in the back that I'm going to have to check out. So I can definitely tell it was coming from the back side. It sounded like the back passengers. So I'm going to pull it on in here and take a look at that. But as far as like drivability, I mean, it's running, it's driving, shift's good, the AC works, and so far I'm not finding any drips of any kind. So probably get this wheel bearing fixed and drive it around a little bit. If no leaks show up, we'll get some coolant in it. So anyways, I'm gonna pull it on here. We'll check this tire out. Okay, I got the front wheel up there chalked, and we got the parking brake on, got it in park, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this wheel off here next. Okay, we got it lifted up back here. I'm gonna get this wheel off, try to find a spot for my jack stand. Okay, I got my 21 here. Okay, now usually I have to take the brake off to kind of make sure, you know, confirm the noise, but with this one, let me get you up here a little closer. Let's just listen to that. Probably one of the worst sounding ones. Surprisingly, it's not loose. So we're going to go ahead and get this. It's got the screw styled brake, emergency brake, and looks like the brake pads are actually good though. Now usually, so we're going to have to take the bracket for the caliper off to be able to get our rotor off and everything. But because you have these, your emergency cable, and the way this position is kind of hard to get to those bolts down there for the bracket, so I'm going to actually go ahead and take the caliper itself off first. You just pop off these little dust caps. I think it's a 7mm, which if you don't have the 7, sometimes you don't get those with most Allen. But anyways, you need I believe it's a 7. We'll find out here in just a second. Okay, so see, you got your dust cap. Pop that off of your fingernail. You're going to get a 7mm. It looks like this. 7mm Allen head. It's just going to go right in there. Once you get it straight, like that. Now we're going to get our 3/8 drive. We'll go ahead and get this loose. And of course, while we're at this, you know, we'll check our slides and stuff and make sure that we've got slide grease and everything, and that's all good. And before I get way ahead of myself here, okay, we've got the spring clip. I don't know if I can pull this off with my fingers or not. Usually I get a screwdriver. Give me a second. Make sure you got safety glasses. Stuff like this likes to fly off sometimes. Let's pop those out. Put that aside. And just to show you, these brake pads, these are good. I can tell somebody has done some maintenance on these. Now these typically don't wear down near as bad as the front, but these look really good anyway. So I think they've probably been replaced. The car's got 109,000 miles on it. Okay, I've got our 3/8. Now I never put these more than like 20 foot-pounds, 15 to 20, and put some medium Loctite on them. But coming from factory, they may be pretty tight. I think they use a lot of air tools or something. So got this one. We'll go ahead, before we completely take that out, we'll switch over to this lower. Okay, so here we are. The lower one's a little bit tighter. Okay, I've got these pretty well loose. Go ahead and just finish removing this by hand here. Okay, so it's only going to, loosen so far. If you have to, you can give this a little push here. Give that pin a little push on through. I'm kind of pushing back here, just gently on the threads. But these actually have slide grease on them, so they're pretty good. I may take them on out and clean them up a little bit, but they're not bad. So we'll just lift this up and off of here. See, here's those slide. We can push those out. Then we'll just kind of wipe them up, put a little more slide grease, and then we'll just push them right back in there. Now, to forewarn you, if you're putting new pads on, you're going to have to twist this. You got to have a tool to push that back, and a lot of the aftermarkets don't fit these because the hole pattern is different, slightly off-centered. So you have to, what I've done is kind of drilled them out a little bit bigger with a drill and got it to work. Now, sometimes you can even get like some needle nose pliers or something to push it back with, but we're going to go ahead, take these pads off here. Alright, so we've got a 14, getting ready to get this bracket here. Actually, I'm going to have to get a bigger ratchet for this, it's pretty tight. Alright, I got my extended ratchet, let's try it again. Those are pretty snug. Alright, now we're down on this lower one here. Let's go ahead and take this one here completely out. Alright, so we've about got it out of there. Okay, there's that lower one. There's our upper one. Right, now we're ready to take this off. Right, so these hubs love to stick, rust and everything. Probably not been removed. We'll put a little, usually let them soak a little bit. You can come back in a little 15 minutes or so. We'll take a hammer and start tapping it lightly. These rotors aren't the best in the world, but they're not just horrible. I've got my jack out of the way. By the way, I've got it sitting on blocks right now. So I'll let this set about 10 minutes and we'll start tapping on it. And if it doesn't want to move, I'll just spray it a little bit more. It's not uncommon. It's doubtful that these have been ever taken off. They look really worn. And we'll just keep working with it here. We're not going to do any more damage to the hub for sure, so we don't have to worry about getting too rough with it. If I want to, I can knock this whole thing off, bearings and all. Alright, so I'm going to get a little more rough with it back here. There we go. It just needed a little persuasion. And there's that wore out bearing. I gotta say, this is probably one of the worst. I've seen some bad ones. This is one of the worst. This sounds horrible. I can't imagine that this just happened the way that it sounds. It's been like that for a good bit. So anyways, we're going to spray these down Got 4 of them. Spray those down, let them soak, and then we'll proceed on from there. Right, I got the car lifted up back here a little bit, and gonna come back here behind it, and you can see the 4 bolts. Those are 14 millimeters we got holding this. Now you also see that ABS connector, so this is something you want to check before you go to ordering or going to run after your wheel bearings. You want to make sure you either got the ABS or the non-ABS. So we know we got ABS. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze on that connector. We'll get that loose, and then we're going to get set up here with our extension, and we'll go ahead and start taking these bolts out. I've had them soaking with the WD-40 for a little bit here. Alright, so I'm on this lower one here. These really aren't too bad tied. I'm just going to use some various extensions. I'm on the ones on this left side here. But it really helps to spray them down with that WD-40 and let them soak a while. Sure don't want to snap them off. Okay, that bolt really seems long. Okay, we finally got it there. So remember, when you're doing a job like this, to be safe, make sure that you've got your vehicle supported safely. Alright. So we'll get on that top one there now. These are really pretty easy to get to. It's just kind of difficult to show it here with a lot of stuff in the way. Go ahead and finish getting this one out. Alright, so there's that top. We've got 2 more on this other side. Okay, so we're going after this top one on this other side up here. Okay, so I'm just working on this front one here now. We've got still got the lower one to go. I'm going to get this top one out. We'll move on to that final bottom one there. Okay, so on the lower one now, the final one, and I'm assuming this thing is going to fall off here, maybe. Sometimes they stick, but I believe it's coming loose up there. And you notice, like, I got the jack stands under the car, but I let this initially jacked up under the spring. I let this back down because it gives me more room to kind of see, and drops that spring kind of arm down out of the way there. So I feel like this is the better way of doing it. But there's only the 4 bolts. I want to go ahead and finish getting this one out, and then hopefully we'll pop this out of here in just a second. Okay, so all the bolts are out. The hub has not fell off, so we're going to get up here and see about removing it. Okay, you can see that it's still it's stuck on there, so we're going to have to take a hammer, a rubber mallet, and tap it to get it loose here. Okay, so I checked the other side, and it's not making any noise over there, so this was the one that's definitely bad, and I could tell immediately where it was coming from when driving it. But I did order a pair of them, and we'll go ahead and replace that side as well. You want to replace these in pairs. Now sometimes these can really be a chore to knock out of here. The inner part of this hub sticks into this part of this knuckle here, and they don't want to come out, so we're just going to have to work with it here till we can get it loose. You can see we slightly got that loose there a little bit. I'm just going to hit it from side to side. Just be cautious. It may come flying down. Okay, it's coming loose on the other side there now, so let's get it back over here. We've got it moving. It's just moving slowly. This is a 10, or I think maybe it's a 5, but not 4 pounds rubber mallet. Okay, so I'm just going to keep working with it here. Okay, so I've hit on it here a good bit, knocking it back and forth, so finally got it. We'll just remember how this goes. And as you can see, you want to look at your connector too. That way, the one you get, make sure that it matches that. But you can see all that the rust, and we'll go in this hub and clean that up. It just gets in there and really sticks, and some of these are way worse than others, but there's a lot of rust on this, and happened was water got in the back and got into those bearings. This feels really bad. So we'll go in here and we'll clean this up a little bit, put a little grease on that before we put our new one back in. But I'm gonna have to wait on those. I got them ordered, so I'm gonna have to wait on those to come in. They're kind of pricey at the parts store, so I just decided to order them and wait. I'm not in that big of a hurry, but I've got a pair of them for about $100. I think they're $100 a piece at the parts stores. So anyways, we'll just pick up once we get the bearings. We'll pick up from there. Okay, we have our new wheel hub bearing, and you can see where the ABS sensor is going to go in the back here. They got a lot of anti-rust on these things so they don't get rusty while shipping and sitting around. And here's just a side-by-side comparison. Now we'll flip this thing over. You can see we've got to transfer the sensor here over to this one. We just want to so you're going to need some e-torques, or you'll need an e-torque. Get you a little kit that has like these. There we go. And we're going to be using this E6 here. Let's see. And we're just going to go back here a little 1/4 inch. And just take that right loose. So we'll just transfer that right over here. And we'll go ahead and just snug that up just a little bit. It is a tiny little bolt going into some brass. Okay, we'll have to do the same thing on our other wheel bearing. We do have the other side. You could just replace the one, but it's usually better to do them in pairs, so you're not, you know that you're starting off with 2 new wheel bearings. But see, this is the one from the passenger side, and the one over here is actually working just fine, not making any noise. So it's up to you, but I'd just recommend replacing them both. Just getting yourself a pair of them and doing them both at the same time. So we'll go ahead and get this ABS sensor in this one. Okay, so we're ready to go ahead and get this back into the onto the car here. Now, if you do mess one of your bolts up, just so you know, you want to get a grade 10.9. Make sure the length is the same. You notice the head of the bolt's a little different, but it's not going to matter. It's a M10 1.25. So you need to remember the 1.25, because there's an M10 1, M10 1.5, but this is an M10 1.25. That is the threads, and I picked this up at AutoZone. Okay, another thing about this, when I took this out, I'd put a mark. We got notice the paint mark here. This is the way we're going to put that in there, so you see where that sensor is located. So I'm going on the passenger side. I'm going to put it in there just like that mark up. And I do the drivers, it's the same thing. I've got a mark which side that's going up, just so you don't get mixed up and flip that the wrong way. Okay, getting ready to slide this in here. So we got this sensor over on to this left side. Just going to go ahead and slip that up into place. Now we'll just kind of hold that, and we'll reach around here and get one bolt started. Okay, before I go to putting this in, I'm going to get some Loctite on one of these bolts here. Yeah, maybe. I think this is about empty. I'm using just some medium Loctite. I'm going to get this ready. Okay, now I put a mark, but basically you can, kind of see, but I just put a mark, but I put a mark here and here, but you could, just make sure that you put it back, your dust shield back this way. And I'm getting ready to go ahead. So as far as the bearing, we've got our sensor over on that left side, so we're going to go in here just like this. So we'll line that up. We're going to reach around the back here and see if we can't get the first one started. I may need to get an extension. Okay, so I'm just tightening this in. I've got a little extension. You can see my hand back here. I'm just starting this first one. Got it going through here, and we've made sure that everything's lined up. Got our sensor where it's supposed to be. Alright, so I've just kind of got that snugged up just by hand. We'll work on getting the other ones in. Okay, so I've got my Loctite on there. If you'll notice this end here that's rusty, really you just put your Loctite down about here, because that protrudes through that hub and it's not even. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one started. Okay, now I'm just working on the one on this side. You can see these easily when you get underneath here. I've got the other 3 started. I've just got the one more on the bottom there to get going. Okay, now I'm just snugging up this final lower one. We're going to get our torque wrench over here. Okay, we got our torque wrench set to 45 foot-pounds for these hub bolts. And I'm using the longer extension for this one up here in the front. On the lower, I guess it'd be the rear, not front. Basically this one here on this side to the, what would be my right of the lower there. I'm using the long extension that works to get in there the best. And we're going to go ahead and torque this up, and we'll get on the other ones. Okay. Okay, I'm able to use this for the others here. I don't mind using the really long one, but sometimes it can throw the torque off. Okay, so I'm on this upper right one. We'll move over to that left side. Just finish torquing them, we'll be all finished up with this. Okay, so we're just getting ready to plug this back in. Okay, and this is turning nicely. We're going to go ahead and get our rotor. Okay, so we're getting ready to get our caliper back in place. We've got medium Loctite. Let's get them started by hand. The other one. So we're going to go ahead and clean up our slides on the slide pins. We'll put some new grease on those, some slide grease, before we get it back into place. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get these torqued up. Okay, so we got our torque wrench. We're set to 55 foot-pounds. We're going to go ahead and start torquing these. Okay, I had to get a little bit of an extension to get back here. Still not quite there. Right now we'll get the top. Okay, we're getting the upper. Same thing, you have to have that little bit of an extension there to be able to get out there where it'll work. Alright. Okay, so I was taking this slide pin out, cleaned it up, and we're going to re-grease it. We'll just a little bit of this. Okay, another thing I'm going to do before I start tightening. We're going to put a little medium Loctite right on here. Actually, I'm going the wrong way there. So we'll take our medium Loctite. I'm going to have to go find my other tube. I grabbed the one that was about empty here. Okay, we'll just do the same thing to that other one there. Okay, and we'll push these back, both of them, before we try to slide it into place. We don't want those hanging up. Okay, we're just going to set our pad, and these are actually pretty good shape. And we've got our rear pad. We'll just get that back in there. And this should go back into place fairly easy. We didn't move it in any, but I'm going to have to get it back into position. Okay, so as you can see, I didn't have to screw it down or anything. Alright, so I'm going to get my 7mm. We'll get back there and start snugging these up. Okay, so I got my 7. I'm just going to start on this lower. Now it is important to, you know, thread these by hand a little bit first so you don't get anything cross-threaded. And you may have to wiggle your caliper. So you don't want to just start off with the wrench. So we'll go ahead and snug the one up top. Alright, so we're just doing the same thing on the one up top. Okay, so we'll get the torque wrench. Okay, so we're going 20 foot-pounds on these. We'll get on the lower. Okay, we're going to go ahead and tweak this. And don't forget your little dust caps, the top and the bottom. Okay, usually with this I hook the bottom. Now the only ones I've ever had a lot of trouble with is the aftermarkets. They seem to want to be a little bit trickier. Usually I can get these with the needle nose and then get it into place. I'm kind of holding that up top with my thumb while I'm working this into the spot it's supposed to go into. Alright, so those are down into position. And I will say, I know that you can get these with kits, unless yours is broken. Usually these OEMs seem to fit a little bit better. So anyways, there we have that. Okay, so we're ready to get our tire back on. Okay, we've got our 21. Let's go through and start these. And we still got to do our other side, but it's going to be the same once we get that, we'll go ahead and test drive this and see if we've got any other issues. Okay, I got my torque wrench here set to 85 foot-pounds. We're going to just torque these down. We'll just go back around and double check them and then go to the other side. Alright, so I think we're about ready to go and test drive this again and see what else we can find wrong with it. Okay, so I've been driving this thing around for a bit and it's running good as far as temperature wise. I had my scan tool on there and the temperature is doing fine. I never got above 198. However, there's an issue with the transmission, something going on with that. You'll have to stay tuned for that video. But as far as you know, the wheel bearings have got that fixed up, and I drove this around for probably about 30 minutes before the transmission issue kind of popped up. So I'm going to have to check into that and make a follow-up video and see what I find. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thanks for watching.